Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. I won't reflect back on 1996 as previous speakers have done so. It was a long time ago. I was still dating women back then, and that was a very, very long time ago. So we'll just leave it at that. Much has changed. Okay. But now that I got that out of the way, I stand you with significant mixed emotion of sadness, of deep anger, frustration, and conflict. You've heard earlier about this notion about we're all in this together, justice for all. And I believe in that. Justice to one, justice to all. But we must do that collectively. And this is a difficult conversation about race, but it needs to be had because we are a microcosm of our electorate. And it can't be done in isolation. You heard from the author that this legislation has great support from many caucuses. You know what that one caucus that's missing? The API caucus. Why are we not having a frank conversation about this? Why is there such resistance? Why is not a single API caucus member a co-author of this legislation? Because of this deep fear that we will lose seats. And how do we reconcile this conversation about deep pain and race and challenges that exist? Through dialogue. And I'll submit to you, there has been an absolute absence of that dialogue. Colleagues, I was not even given the dignity of having a conversation with the author about this. The chair of the California Legislative Black Caucus has not come to me to ask me for my vote. Not a text message, not a call, not a meeting request, nothing. And that is emblematic of part of this problem. That we can't do this in isolation. Yes, we have a moral compass, but we must have conversations, difficult ones, even with those communities in opposition. Because we're all in this together, right? We are all in this together. And let's think about sort of this mutual and unconditional allyship. It is mutual, it is two-way. And I share conversations about the difficulty of this because I was the district director for Paul Fong, who is the chairman of the API Legislative Caucus when this first came about, who, by the way, subsequently lost his next election because of this vote. So it does come with political peril, but I did not run for office for self-preservation. But I begin to wonder then, why is it that so many in my community are in opposition? Aren't you yellow? Why are you voting against your own people? Why are you betraying us? These are from sitting elected officials telling me this in my district. And I want to know if this was true of the entire district. Colleagues, I've had 99 calls and emails in support, and a whopping 3,700 in opposition. 37-1. And you might think, okay, they're out of the district. Well, I spent some time to look, absolutely, they're registered voters, they're real people. Real opposition. So what am I to do? Without even having the decency of a conversation to discuss difficulties of race. And this institution has the mechanisms to ensure that we are talking to each other. And if we can't even have these tough conversations, what do you think is going to happen in the electorate? In which individuals are going to be talking in isolation. So why is this the case? It's about power. It's about fear. It's about race. It's about the loss of power. Asian Pacific Islanders, particularly the Chinese community, fear the loss of good, hardworking people who believe that if you do the hard work as you are told, they will have their chance as well, too. Many of them go into debt because of the value of education. That's a cultural thing. So if we understand the realities, no Asian Pacific Islander caucus support as co-authors of this bill, and the caucus is missing, and we've seen what happened before. 8 years ago, nothing has changed in terms of the conversations, the difficulty of the conversations. So why is that the case that so many believe this? Many in the community are recent immigrants, and they don't understand They don't understand the challenges of other communities. That's why, by the way, we need mandatory ethnic studies so we can learn about the history of all of us as a culture. So you can remember the uncanny parallels with the Chinese Exclusion Act or the California Alien Land Law of 1913, which forbid Asian Americans from owning property. Or even in my community, the discrimination with Proposition 8 in 2008, which eliminated the rights of same-sex couples to marry. And the message is actually really clear to Asian Pacific Islanders. You want the best way to get your child, your kid, into higher education? Go to community college, where you have priority transfers. And by the way, at De Anza Community College, like mine, in my community, 79% transfer rates to the UC system. That's the best way to get in. So absolutely, it's appropriate for us to talk about these conversations, these issues. It's difficult to have race-neutral policies for very race-specific problems.
30 seconds, Mr. Lowe.
And so today, my vote will be based solely on my conscience and my commitment to my conviction. And as we started this conversation today with a pledge of allegiance for liberty and justice for all.